Are we live? We are live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome, welcome. First of all, a good Yontov, a good Yontov. Today is the Rosh Hashanah of Chassidus. It's Yud Tes Kislev, the day the Alter Rebbe was redeemed from prison and began really spreading out the Welshmans of Chassidus outwards. We complete the cycle of the Tanya today, of the Yom Yom today, and it's a big celebration. So God willing, it will be with tremendous blessings of a happy and healthy year of Chassidus and the ways of Chassidus, signed and sealed, the book of Chassidus, and B'tzrat Hashem, we share the fullest godless of Malach Moshiach on a very appropriate day like Yud Tes Kislev. So let's hop right in here and start jamming on today's Sikha, which is Parshas V'Yeshev. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nivra. Okay. Aleph. Dubar pa'amim rabbos la'acharayna b'prat b'zman acharon. As we have mentioned many times, especially of times of recent, ki al pi kol chasimanim dureinu hu hador acharon shel galus. According to all the signs, we see that we are the last generation of the exile. Good job. And therefore, automatically, we're the first generation of the redemption. This is something the Rebbe said on his initial inaugural address that he gave over on Yud Shvat. Shahar yikavar siyuma as kol ininim ha'avoda uchavar oindim ochnim. The Gula mitzvah shlema edi Mashiach tzikenu umiyad mamish. And we can therefore see that we have already seen all the signs and all the matters of our service are complete. And we are already standing ready and prepared for the true and complete redemption to our righteous Mashiach. It should happen immediately. And therefore we have some questions here. That we see that the redemption is dependent in such a way that all the world should be ready. Is that not so? Lo rak adam echad o mispar enashim. Not only one particular person or a small group of people. Lo rak v'chelek echad shel adam. And not only one part of the world. And there should call adam, but the entire world. Shari go lo kashora v'tilui ba'akvot nidche Yisrael ma'ar v'kanvot arts. Since in the redemption is connected and dependent on the gathering of all the Jewish people from the four corners of the world. Including also the refining of the nations of the world in all the places where they are. So the question is, do we see such a thing? Does it look like the whole world is ready for Mashiach? Does it look like the whole world is rectified? So the Rebbe said that the obvious question is, what makes our generation right now more ready and more prepared than all the previous generations? It seems, at least if you're looking according to your physical eye and the laws of nature, that is the opposite. It seems that everyone in this generation is so far removed from these ideas and these concepts. People are in another planet, literally. In previous generations, it seemed that the generation was holier, that they were more connected in a revealed way. So what's going on? Base. Hadavar yoivan b'hagdam hatam meklados ishtalshalus mesiyehem kol b'nei Yisrael b'goylis mekoyim lemekoyim. So first, we have to preface by understanding the reason in general that that the Jewish people were sent down here and spread out in the Gullus from place to place. We haven't exactly been what you'd call a settled nation. I don't think there's any other nation that they call wandering other than the Jews, right? The tale of the wandering Jew. We've literally been sent from nation to nation and thrown out of nation to nation. But there's reasons for all that. Even though we see that the Jewish people have been spread out into multiple different countries and different places across the world, this is only a descent in Chitzoni. It's only an external descent. In other words, it only appears to be as if we are somehow spread out. And that's a negative thing. Excuse me. In fact, we see it's brought down, our sages tell us in Gemara Pesachim, that Hashem did a great kindness, literally performed a tzedakah, a great a kindness, if you will, and a giving to the Jewish people by spreading us out amongst the nations of the world. Doesn't seem to be the case if you look with your physical eye, but that's what our sages teach us. So what does it mean? We see there's a tremendous advantage in the way of the service of the Jewish people as it's conducted in every single place. Asher heim mitziyavim b'medina zera, heim mitlabshim. Because when we dwell in a particular country, in a particular place, in a particular area, we get into the place, right? We get in the kishkas of the place. We get involved in not only the customs in the place, but the customs according to the place. Because in every place, there's unique customs. There's unique ways of dress, of conducting business, to the point that the Rambam says in multiple places in his Mishnah Torah that these are the halachas, but we go according to the custom of the place, meaning that there are nuances from place to place on how things are done. And therefore, when we find ourselves in a particular place, we must go in accordance to the ways of the place. Including the ways of the people of the place. In other words, that's what makes each place in the world unique and individual. There's different kind of people with different kind of customs and different ways of doing things. According to the teachings of our rabbis, as last the karasa chelek v'nimusi. Shehalacha nifseches v'zeh ikar gadol v'kol v'divri ma'aseh v'matan v'lichoynech ha'lashan bani adam v'oiseh ha'makayim v'achar v'haminhag ha'ikar gadol b'davarim eidash v'minhag v'din. It's just furthering saying that the main, as I pointed out a minute ago, the main halachas often are based on the custom of the place and where you're at. The customs of the place and the people in that particular place in the world. Oh, okay. So now we see. Sorry, I lost my place there. Oh, so in order to go according to the customs of the place, therefore we're serving Hashem and praising Hashem and serving and working Hashem based on the particularities of the place where we're at. And this is what the pasuk says: all of your deeds shall be for the sake of the heaven, and you should know God in all of your ways. This is in addition to adding on in Torah and mitzvahs. So, where service of Hashem is not just increasing in Torah and mitzvahs, but in the way that we conduct ourselves, because literally our entire lives are here to be given over to God. B'lashon Chassidus, according to Chassidut, Bibor Ma'amr Hazal Lo Hagala Baruch Boas Yisrael Levein Ha'omot Ele Kadesh Nitayisafai Elehem Gering. So it's brought down that it says that the pasuk says that the reason that God sent the Yidden amongst the Goyim is in order that we should create converts. We should bring converts. So what does it mean? So according to Chassidus, it doesn't mean what you think it does. It doesn't mean that we should try to get Goyim to convert to become Jews. That's not our job. Garim Ramaz U'Mityachas U'Mitzatzoysa Kedusha U'Mitzuyim B'Kol Inyan Ha'Elam. The whole, what does it mean according to Chassidus and Kabbalah? That Gerim or converts are referring to the sparks of holiness that have been trapped and fell down into this physical world out of the 288 sparks that broke from the world of Tohu, if you will. And this is how Hashem reveals himself to the Yid. According to the different places around the world where these sparks fell. And our job is to, when it means to convert, it means to transform them to holiness, to purify them. In order to elevate these sparks that are found in whatever particular place we are. This is what I mean, that God did a great kindness by spreading us throughout the nations of the world. In order that we see that we should add on and elevate from the service of refining these holy sparks in whatever particular place we may find ourselves, right? You ever, sometimes you get lost and you find yourself in some random place and you don't know what you're doing there? Well, start by saying a bracha, find something to eat or drink or drain the main vein, say a bracha acharona, because a lot of times we don't realize it, but God puts us in particular places that we think it's an accident, and it's not. It's because maybe we have to find a Jew there to put tefillin on. Maybe we have to say a bracha there. There's sparks there. The point is that these 288 sparks of tohu, which basically fell down to the world, they're spread out into millions of pieces and fractions of millions of pieces of the main sparks all over the world. And when we're in a particular place and we're serving Hashem according to that particular place, and we're saying blessings, we're davening with the minyan, we're learning Torah, we're doing mitzvot, all the things we're doing, we're elevating those divine sparks back up to their source. So it's total hashgacha process that you are in the place that you line up. There's no coincidences. It says God is the one who directs the footsteps of man. The question is what we do in those places. Nizam ubana samayla bakach yehudim mispazrim mitchavim babedinas rabois ba'oim ad oifen shal ufarasta yamavakevat sefona v'negba. And from this we can understand the advantage of the Jewish people being spread out into multiple countries and places across the world. And this is the idea of God spread us out. Your ufarasta, we spread out yamavakedma from the sea and from the north, from the tzvona v'negba, from the east and from the west. All four corners of the world. And this is specifically so that the Jewish people can perform their service in these particular places of the world and enclose them in a deep way. In other words, it's not just like all right, we got to live here for a few years. Let's just make the best of it. It's no, let's penetrate into the actual world around us and really dig deep, if you will, where we are. And how do we do this? Through dwelling and really getting into the place where we are. And we conduct ourselves according to permissible ways based on the place where we are. Yehudi. ופועל אז בבירור וזיכוך, וכל מקום ומקום לפי ענייניהו, ובצורה כזויס נפלויס ודינה נספרך בתחתונים. In every single place that we go, we're refining and rectifying the place according to the matters of the place. And by doing this, we're elevating the place and we're causing we're making the place a fitting place for Hashem to be, for Hashem to dwell. In other words, we're transforming it from an unholy or a mundane place into a holy place. Atachtoinim lashon rabim in a plural form, meaning that all the matters of the place you're in are there to be elevated. We should be involved in the kishkas of a place, right? You see a shliach comes to a particular community, and next thing you know, they're putting a Hanukkah menorah up in the town hall, where before there was only a krachmachs tree. They're inviting the mayors are coming to their festivities. They're in the kishkas of the place. This is not the case when we find ourselves in a place where the Paul as Boisen by Oifen confusion retain the Paul Bisha Shachaimishim Bekvio Shemikus with Shivot Mr. Makai. Yep, just again, we see this concept of really getting in the kishkas of a place where we are. Right? Right. In addition to this, in addition to the service in such a way by adding on and increasing, but tukaf and strengthening the success of our service. How do we do such a thing? And the reason for such going according to such a way varies from place to place. The way you conduct yourself in one place is not the same way you do it in another place. לכן צריך יהודי המצוי במקום זה להנהג לפי מנהג המדינה עד שהוא צריך גם לנצל את מנהגי המקום בעבודת השם שלו. שהרי על ידי כך מביא הדבר תוספת להצלחה גם בעבודת מנהגי המקום. So we see this concept when we're moving to new places and we're going to new areas, that it's a particular focus that we now have to focus on increasing whatever we're doing in the new place that we didn't do in the previous place. Right? Although you have those separations. So when I was younger, I used to like to move around a lot, right? You go up, you do your thing, you set up your set, and you say, you know what, let me change a pace. So the idea is when a yid is going from place to place, we're really working on building roots in the place we are and connecting and bringing godly energy into that place. It's literally a mission, right? It's like going on a secret recognizance mission where you're like in the army and you're being sent to a specific place You may not realize it, but you're going there on a mission to elevate the place and to bring godliness to that place in your own particular way. Of course, according to Torah mitzvot. And from this, we could see in general that there are two levels of this type of work, of elevating a place. Aleph, the first one, that we bring about and affect the innermost dimension of the lower part of the world, talking about the physical world. That we penetrate it with holiness, even in a lowly place, according to the boundaries of the place, or the way that things are conducted of that particular place. But we see that the capability in such a way that the lower place remains separate. Rather, what is happening is only receiving from above what is given to it. In other words, you have to keep going back. So you put some godly energy into the place, and it affects the place. But the place is still the place, right? You still have the place and the godly energy you put down. And now you have to add more godly energy and add more godly energy. You have to kind of keep igniting the flame, keep igniting the spark, if you will. Excuse me. Base, or the second level, that you're refining and elevating and rectifying the place itself. And you're transforming it into a place of Torah and mitzvahs. That you're building buildings of Torah, you're opening Torah institutions. You're opening places to pray and to do good deeds. You're opening shuls, you're opening houses of Torah study, in such a way that it's affecting the place itself. And therefore, it's not necessary to keep coming from a higher place and trying to elevate the place, because you transform the place. Rather, that literally you've transformed the place, and the people of the place now are going into Torah and mitzvot that they themselves have transformed. In such a way that we see that now they have totally transformed their way, and now they're conducting themselves and going in a completely different way. The place is done tshuva. You've elevated the place. It's now literally, you've turned a place that was like there's no godliness into a place that totally transformed. Gimel. So these are two dimensions or two levels of this type of service, of how we're elevating and transforming the world around us. So according to this, the Rebbe says, we can understand what is so unique to our generation. Why is it our generation that the generation that we're bringing Mashiach, compared to other generations that seem to be in better condition than we are? בדורנו הקדומים לא היה פיזור כך גדול של בני ישראל בכל כתבוי תבל כפי שהוא כאילו בדורנו זה. In previous generations, there was not this idea of sprinkling and spreading out Jews into the furthest corners of the world as there is now. right? There was never such a thing. The Jewish people always remained pretty much in insular communities, right? We had our areas that we were in. Slowly, slowly over time, the Jews started going into the diaspora and developing different places to the point where it's not just like, okay, you're in Morocco, or you're in New York City or wherever, where it's just a big concentration of Yidden. But you literally see, you could go to the furthest corners of the world, and Jews are living there. They've set up shop, and it wasn't really a thing in previous generations to do such a thing. Yeah, okay, a couple random people, but now it's a commonplace thing. There's literally Jews everywhere, all over the world. And that didn't exist previously. We didn't see this in the times of the Beis Hamikdash because the Jews live in Eretz Israel. That's where we always live. And we also never saw this in the first generations of the exile. That's what I just said. Jews were living in specific communities. This was a Jewish community. Yeah, even Jews and neighbors. It's fascinating. Wherever we go, we could be in the most remote places in the world, and sure enough, we run into from Yidden. It always happens. Masha Ain came with Amachori and Yoser Israel. This is not the case in this generation. In this generation and the recent generations, we literally see Yidden spreading to the furthest corners of the world. And the Rebbe set up into our generation. We literally see Jewish people in the furthest corners of the world. And not only do we find Yidden, we found shuls, and we find them keeping Torah and mitzvot. And they've drawn down and spread this out to the places where they are. And they've opened up organizations and institutions of Torah and mitzvot all over the world, Baruch Hashem. אפילו לרגע קל רואים את העילוי שבדורנו אנו לאוימס הדורנו שלפניו, וזוהי שחבר יש בהבירה והצליחה של כל מדינה בישראל. And if we contemplate this, even for brief moments, we can see the tremendous advantage of our generation to the generations that came before it. That they're already, since we have already refined and rectified all the places across the world, right? And I remember it's like I went through these different phases. I remember when I went through my tshuva, right? And I first started learning the Tanya. And it's like the bulb just went off. I was like, whoa. It's like all of a sudden, this what once seemed like it's like stuffy, antiquated religion, God forbid, came to life. It was like, wow, like seeing what's really going on in my soul and the world around me. The same thing happened when I entered Lubavitch Yeshiva. And everyone was saying how the Rebbe is Moshiach. And I was saying, you guys are all cuckoo, you're whack jobs. I didn't know what they were talking about. And then slowly, I started learning these sichas. And all of a sudden, the bulbs started going off, right? Like the Rebbe is talking about right now. They're literally, I mean, if you're counting actual, not, if you want to discern what you call a shliach, but if you're counting real shluchim, like regardless of what their card says, around the world, there's got to be 7,000-8,000 Chabad houses around the world. In the furthest corners of the world. There's nowhere you can travel there's not a Beit Chabad. What is that? What is the point of that? That's what the Rebbe is saying now. Who did this? The Rebbe. Mashiach. This is one of the jobs of Mashiach. There's never been an individual in the history of the world responsible for spreading more Judaism to the further corners of the world than Lubavitcher Rebbe. It's not even remotely close. You're like, okay, there's a couple Kiruv centers under the different names. Maybe there's 3 or 4 of them or 10 of them. There's thousands and thousands of Chabad houses around the world. Specifically for this reason. That's what the Rebbe is saying. To make sure that all the sparks, that all the Jews that are around the world have access to elevate the worlds around them. And that's exactly what has happened. And that's why the Rebbe said specifically now, our generation is fitting for Mashiach when it wasn't. Because the energy and light of Mashiach hadn't penetrated to the furthest corners of the world. It was stuck in remote places. Now it's literally spread out across the entire world. הרי מובן מדוע מצויים לנו כבוד יקרא סגולה. And according to what we just explained above, we see that all the signs, including all the signs that everything has already been rectified and refined, now we can understand how we find ourselves already in the states of redemption, right? The bulb goes off when you realize it, when you just connect the lights. That's another way to look at it, right? It's like the central energy plants, and all of a sudden now, when God flips the switch in the world from Golos to Geula, I mean, it's already switching now, but I mean, completely, in 1 second, it's just going to be the light that's going to travel to the furthest corners of the world, because the Yidden have been sent out to the furthest corner of the world, and there's Beit Chabad in the furthest corners of the world. So we see all of this has resulted in this energy of redemption that is spread across the world, where it never was such a way in previous times. And that was all through the Rebbe. The Frierdiker Rebbe sent out shluchim too, but we're talking about a handful. At the level that it is now, it's unprecedented. And all the matters we see in such a way, in general and specifically. And we see the complete rectification of the world, and we see this specifically as an example of the refinement of the country of France, Sarfat. So I say France in Hebrew. And to preface, She'echa miyoidi ha'geula na'amra b'maforash Medina Sarfat. V'golos ha'chol l'bnei Yisrael go'at Sarfat. Yerusha is Ari HaNegev. V'alo Mashi'im b'har Tzir nishpat es Yisrael HaMelucha. We see that one of the places that were indicative of the Jewish people being in the exile was France. And we know the Rebbe has already pulled all the sparks out of France. It's known that when he changed the French national anthem into a Hasidic nigun, which is sung every Shabbos in 770, it's known that he single-handedly took out the ministering angel of France. And he delivered the death blow to France. He broke France from any hold of Klippa that was there. And that was indicative of a sign of many saying that France was one of the lowest places of the exile. And the fact that the Rebbe transformed France is showing a clear sign of how the redemption is already here. And this is what it says, that Esav will be on heart Tzion, and that Hashem is going to judge him and rule forever and ever. In other words, the stronghold of what's left with it, I don't know if it's a stronghold. Right now it's a pretty weak hold. If you look at who's in charge of the so-called president of this country, I wouldn't indicate him as a strong leader. So this weak hold that is slowly crumbling before our eyes is going to completely evaporate. And we're going to see that God is going to reveal in a revealed way right now. Tzrat Hashem. Tzrik Lahavin, we have to understand Bezah Shanahavi Muprat as go Oilis or Hagula Shal Tzarfat. Specifically, how we see the transformation of Sfat from exile, from France to exile to redemption. Movanch Kiyamis Shaykh Usimecheres B'nei. This we can understand there's a relevance to both of these concepts. Shahari Afila Im B'tchilas Hagalas Hagola Yehudim Tzarfat. And even we see in the beginning of the Galus and the exile of Jews to France, and now we can understand this concept of redemption as it's showing the importance of the country of France. The Gola has one of the places that the Jews were exiled to, France. Anyone who's ever been to France, not exactly people going in the way of God. You could put it that way, to put it mildly. Anyhow. We see that this is indicative of the fact that the entire world has already been elevated and all the rectification has already been done. And therefore, we're already at a place of Hashem ruling the entire world. And France was always known to be a very grub place, a very not refined place. Okay, they spritz a lot of perfume, but like meaning that the it's like a rough on the edges type of place. Very, very heavily based in excessiveness of sexuality, of food, of gluttony, of I don't know how to say a grub. I don't know how to explain it as a grub, but it's not a very coarse type of place. So when the Rebbe broke it by crushing its ministering angel and elevating the nigun of the French national anthem, I've been in shuls before with French people who are not yet observant, and they hear me start singing. And I start singing in the tune of 770 that the Rebbe does, and they're like, "Why are you singing the French national anthem?" They don't understand that the Rebbe transformed it to a nigun. Anyways, this idea that France got broken and that that even the sparks of France have been elevated is a sign that the entire world, some of the lowest places in the world, have also been elevated. And meaning that the entire world has been transformed. Because when you see a place so low be transformed to a place of Kedusha, it's showing you how it's like taking a building from the lowest part and lifting it up. You lift the whole building up. Hey, הדברים יובנו לאור החידוש ושינוי ביחס של ישראל בדורנו זה למדינת צרפת. Agabi b'yachar shahaya b'doiroi shel Admor Hazakim. Oh, and we can understand even more that the light. One second. The Rani Yuvana, the Or Hachidush, to the unique thing and the change in the relationship of the Jewish people and the generation of France, regarding and compared to the times of the generation of the Alter Rebbe, which is very apropos that we're talking, of course, being on Yud Tes Kislev. I just know שבתקופת האדמו"ר הזקין כאשר רצה המלחמה בין נפוליאון הצרפתי וצאר אלכסנדר הרוסי, סבר האדמו"ר הזקין כי לטובת מצבם Haruchni shel bnei Yisrael be'eni yira shemayim adif sherusi nitztach. Tzarfat and hal b'fam. So it's known that in the times of the war between France and Russia, the Alter Rebbe actually supported Russia, and it's a crazy concept, but there's a lot to say about it, especially if you look in the difference between the times that we're in now and the previous times in Russia with the Frierdiker Rebbe, where it's known that if France would have been victorious, the Jewish people would have been free physically. There'd be no persecution like there was in Russia. There'd be free to learn and spread and teach Torah and mitzvahs, what they were not allowed to do in Russia. And they would be free to practice their religion pretty much unhampered, which they were not allowed to do in Russia. Yet the Alter Rebbe specifically wanted Russia to win, because he said it's better that the Jewish people should know that they're in prison. In other words, they should know that they're fighting in Russia to keep Judaism alive, than to be in a place like France, which one could say is similar to the environment in America, where do whatever you want, but the outside influence of the host nation is so powerful that the klippas of food, sex, just this free, open type of lifestyle is more detrimental to the Jewish people than being in prison. Because when you're in prison, you know you're in prison. When you're fighting to keep Judaism alive, you know it. But sometimes the worst prison one can be in is when you think you're free. And that's kind of a pretty replica of the amount of intermarriage and separation from Torah and mitzvot that we see in America, because we're free to do what we want. Not always a good thing. Anyways, so the Alter Rebbe was supporting Napoleon. I'm sorry, Alexander. He wanted the Russians to overcome the French and to win, even though he knew the result of that. He said it's a lesser evil, if you will. Bonaparte, Yerba Oisher, Israel, Yorim, Karan, Israel. There would be wealth. There would be openness. Alo Yispardu, Yitraku, Levin, Show Yisrael, Levehem, Shebishamayim. But it would cause a great separation between the heart of the Jewish people and their Father in heaven. Ve'im Yitzach Echad Alexander, Im Ki Yervo Ho'ini Yisrael, Shishpa Kirin Yisrael, Avis Kashra, Yisravo, Vakadu, Leven Show Yisrael, Aveshamayim. So we just said, even though they would be in poverty and they would be in prison, they would still have a strong connection to God. And that is what has kept us alive as a nation. Not the fact that we know how to do business and smuggle and figure things out. The fact that we have stayed connected to God and kept Torah and mitzvahs. As it says, the Shabbos keeps us more than we keep the Shabbos. That we see that France is a place that brings about a ruach hafaith, separating us, God forbid, from our knowledge and faith in God. The klipa zusha malchus sarfa shachayoisa es toiket haklipa v'din kasher. That the klipa, the shell, the coarseness of a place like France is even higher from a klipa that is hard like a place like Russia. I always say to people, you always pay. Because people come here from Israel. They're like, oh, it's so much easier to make money in America. Compared to Israel, Israel is a very hard place to be successful. In America, it's not easy, but there's more opportunity, put it that way. So I always tell people, you always pay. In America, you pay with your ruchnius, and in Israel, you pay with your gashmius. When you move to Israel, you suffer financially, but God is open and apparent. You feel God. You sense God. In order to learn Torah in Israel compared to learning Torah here, there's nothing to compare. You're directly getting your energy from God. You feel the presence of God literally all the time. And now you come to America and you don't. Maybe it's easier to make money, but you have to work very hard to reveal God. So no matter what you are, what you're doing, you have to pay a price of admission. You're gonna have to work. Hamas goes nasus. It's a lois ulamaso samoch. Holy Ghost, Lomar, Kocheva Oitzim, Yedei, Masalek, Hashkach, Ava Amuna, Vapitachon Belukus, Kafishim of Waters, Isamara, Emsoy, Lois the rock in his money. Ella the Ran Noiga the Call has money, Vahadurish, the Ahers. Yedua, Bedibre Hayami, Hamaha. As a fasis, Bashanas Tafshakas, yeah, Gam, Havacha, Idiogits, Ini Clarish, Amod Shinoi, Ikreva, Edun Kulo. I'm going to explain in a second. Mahafachol, Zu, Ayisa, Achad, Mo'eris, Ikrim, Shalahem, Shazam, Yisidas, and Hagar, Shah, Edom, Dirina, Rose, Arayum Hazeh, Anana. Zafan Misri biyad Melech Amalcha, Haya and Hagi Kol Olam B'Dasan, Mahafacho Ayisa Misu Sas Kol Kach. I'm just going to keep mumbling to myself, and I will give an explanation in a second. Just talking about this whole concept of the difference in the type of klipas. Okay, so again, he's just explaining in a little bit more detail why the Alter Rebbe chose to support Russia as opposed to France. How that the idea it's a famous line from the Rebbe. How do you know you're in exile? When you stop searching for God. So as long as, just summarizing very briefly, as long as wherever you are, you know that you're here to connect to God and to serve God, and you're in different places, and you have to do that at different times. You conduct and you go on. But the second you forget about that, that's what your mission is, and the world around you swallows you up, and you lose your dot, you lose your knowledge of God, you lose your amuna in God, and you start saying, wow, this isn't so bad. Smell these pastries. This is delicious. Wow, there's beautiful women all over the place. Next thing you know, you think you're free, but you're gone. And that's why it says that the Alter Rebbe put all his power that Russia should win as opposed to France. Therefore, we see that again, the Alter Rebbe is just saying again that he put his support that Russia should be victorious in the war, even though it would lead, of course, to a undesirable situation for the Jewish people. He realized that this undesirable situation would ultimately lead a strengthening of Yiddishkeit to keep it alive in a place like Russia, as opposed to letting it die a spiritual death, God forbid, in a place like France. Okay, va. According to this, we can see something unique in our generation. Talking about our generation. As it's connected according to we see to France. Specifically, we see with the shlichot of the leader of our generation, of the Frierdiker Rebbe. מבלי חבט על כך שמדינה זו הייתה מזמנים ההם תחת הקליפה. The Frierdiker Rebbe literally continued on with this war to break the Iron Curtain and to break the stronghold of Russia, the physical stronghold. And Haggadah והסנגדה להנהגה שעל פי יראי שמיים בפרט בדרך חסידות. That he literally went head to head against Russia, and in order to increase more God-fearing Jews and to spread Hasidus. So again, this is a continuation of the war that the Alter Rebbe started himself in spreading Judaism in such a place that opposes it. And included throughout the generations after the Alter Rebbe. And we see that our Rebbes have been successful in spreading out the Torah of Chassidus everywhere, in Russia and in France. This tremendous. I've spoke to shluchim who've gone to France, to Russia, and they said it's unbelievable. You're sitting in places that literally were so anti-Judaism, anti-God, anti-Semitic, burning books of Torah. I mean, and now they're Chabad houses everywhere, all over the place. And we see that this concept from one end to the other, not only as it's referring to the light of holiness that reached these places, not only that, we see how many Jews are learning Torah. There's huge yeshivas in Russia and in France. Throughout the continuation of the years, we see that Judaism and yeshivas and Torah learning has gotten stronger and stronger in these places, particularly like France, that it was unheard of for such a thing previously. And we see this specifically with the Frierdiker Rebbe, brought this into the whole nother level. The work that the Alter Rebbe started. Excuse me. We see so many Jews, so many yeshiva bachrim, literally spending all day learning Torah and doing mitzvahs in the most unbelievable way. Some of the best yeshiva systems in the world are in Russia and in France. It's known, right? Renoir in France is like the spitz of the spitz yeshiva. They take only the top Talmidim. Because Yivivas Chidushi HaTorah, שגם יהודים נוספים יכולים ללמד בהם כתוצאה מכך שלפי סוג ויסו לאחר אחד כיוצא בזה. מלכת לאחר מלחמת העולם השני, and we see specifically after the Second World War, הגיעו לשם בהשגחה פרטיס וישיבו שם. שיהודים במדינת השיינס. We see what Hashgacha Pratis, the Jewish people have went and dwelled in these places. Up into the place that they've literally been transformed into places of Torah and mitzvot. It's really fascinating if you think about it, right? Places like Russia and France and Germany, there have yeshivas and tons of Chabad houses. People are sitting and learning Torah. It's something. של הפצת התורה וייחוד הסמכלו And not only is the Torah spread out, but the Torah of Chassidus is spread out to these furthest places of the world. Specifically with Lubavitch yeshivas. Many branches are set up in these places. In matters of education and all matters of holiness. And they're continuing to spreading out light by spreading more Torah and mitzvahs in these places and learning more Torah. Now we can see a lesson that's connected to all of us and our service in the world. I lost my place. That in every single generation, the Jewish people managed to spread out to new places and more farther away places. Today, the Pual Sham, Esabira Hamikadesh, Hamis Vakesh, Shahari Shlema Zabirahu, Basha. And it's Alim as Gam as Anhagi Hamakayim Kadela Haisim Avoda Hashem. And we see that they've increased in their service of Hashem in these places. And we see the increase from generation to generation of our Rebbes. How much more they kept spreading out Torah and mitzvahs to further and further places in the world. Excuse me. Asher b'meshach hadoy reish v'noy tesef b'kach yoser v'yoser v'ash v'derenu zeh hagiu gam v'devora el safas. Up until the point that we see, even in our generation, that we have reached and rectified and refined France. Shabliti havet. And this is a place that is very, very low in the spiritual way. It's a very grub physical place. And it's been conquered by vast yeshiva systems and Chabad networks of shuls. Satira, the Inira, Ashemai. וכל מקום את שיבו במדינה זו, יהודים בדורנו, אבירה וזיוכח עושה, עד שהדרב ניצל את מנהג המקום כדי להיסה וחפוץ התורה וחפוץ התורה חסידות. That we have countries that at one time totally prohibited the spreading and teaching of Judaism, and now they're actively helping us spread Torah and mitzvahs and chassidus. יש לומר שהכוח לזה נויבה מכך שזה היה זין חסד אצל נשיא דור עצמו כבקדש מעט. And we see furthermore the power from all of this, that it came about through the leader of the generation himself. And we see the places that our Rebbes set up shop. Up into the point of, we see that he's talking about the Rebbe Rashab now. Literally, to set up shop in Russia as his main spot. אלא נשיא דור ראינו נוטס חידוש לגבי הנשיאים שלפניו. We see the unique thing of our Nasias. He's talking now about the Rebbe Rashab and the Rebbe Macharash and the Frierdiker Rebbe. The advantage they had over previous generations' Rebbes. Mainly we see in a place like Russia. and other nations and other places. So now we're talking about 3 different periods of Rebbe's. Shal be'erach eser shanim. First, we see the first 10 years. Kafi shedor pam hatukfa arishayna be'ikar berusia, but its main work was in Russia. And then we see Tukva Hashemi. In the second period, the main work was in Poland. And now we see the third period where the main work is in Atzot Brit America. Right? If you trace Lubavitch throughout the years, basically it's a process of following the Jewish people. Right? So we have Russia, we have Poland, and then ultimately, or Europe, Russia, Europe, ultimately America. All right, that's where the Shekhinah is. That's where there's more Jews in America now than there are in Israel. And the Rebbe says, now we see, as we said above, he's giving us another deeper insight showing how our Rebbeim set up shop in these particular places and started spreading Chassidus in these places, showing the importance of why, because there's so many Jews in these places, and therefore we see the necessity that when we go to a place, when we live in a place, we have to submerge ourselves into the place and immerse ourselves in the place, right? We see this lesson from the travels in the Midbar, in the desert. I'm just saying this, it doesn't say it inside, but wherever the Jewish people went, even if it was for a few days, Moshe Rabbeinu said, set up shop. It wasn't like, oh man, why we got to take on all our stuff and put all the poles and the tents and the mizbeach and all this stuff. It's going to take so long. We're only going to be here a couple of days. Let's just take out what we need. Nope. Wherever you are, set up shop. Ownership. Make it your place. Make it your. When we first moved here from Israel, I told my wife, it doesn't really make a difference anything because we're only going to be here for a few years. We're coming here for a few years, and then we're going to go back to Israel. Well, here we are, 13 years later in America, and this is where we've set up shop against my will, but Baruch Hashem, it's worked out good. I have no complaints. I'd still rather be in Sfat right now, but not Sarfat, France, Sfat in Israel. Anyways, we see the importance that wherever you go, don't think about, I'm only going to be here a short time or it's going to be temporary or whatever. I'm just biding my time until something else. No, literally set up shop and immerse yourself in the place you are by spreading Torah and mitzvahs in the place that you are. And we see this through each one of our Rebbes, wherever they were, they literally went into every aspect of the communities around them, starting from Russia until we wound up to America. Now we see something unique to our generation, the final generation, the 7th generation, as it's unique to the first generation, the Alter Rebbe's generation. The we see the tremendous amount of work that has been done by the leaders of our generation and by the Hasidim and the people in their generation of spreading out Torah and well springs to the furthest corner of the world. In the times of the Alter Rebbe, that was just not the case. Sure, they were spreading Chassidus, but didn't even have the means capable, right? It said, one of the things it tells us is that Mashiach will teach Torah to the entire world. 50 years ago, that would have been impossible. How was he going to teach Torah to the whole world? Was he going to stand on a giant building with a giant, one of those, what do you call it? Those bull horns? How's the whole world going to hear Torah from the same time? Now it's very possible. It's very easy. It's very realistic. how one person can communicate with the entire world and the whole person can tune in. Never happened before. Already said that. But Klaus Yaser in general even more. The Tchila Avodas Baza Oid Etzra Marash. Kiddush Nasa Kama Pa'amim Betzarfas. Asar Shoba Ali Tshuva. And he made many, many Bali Tshuvas. But Acher Kach Oid Yaser Oid Mar Nisham Se'idin. We started off talking about the Rebbe Marash, how many Baal Tshuvas he made, and then we have the Rebbe is comparing the previous Rebbeim of the first generations to our Rebbeim in the latter generations, and how much more we've been able to spread out the well springs, not because the latter Rebbeim are more intelligent, Chas v'shalom, or have more skills. It's just the nature of the time and place we are in the world. And then we see even furthermore from the Rashab. They wrote his Hemshek, Ayin Base, and all this continuation of spreading out the well springs even further. For Ikosh, was a Borgo Finchal Akabrios, which was Oifen Penimi, the Oifen Shahafatsa, Nasa, but they're all you there. Admor, and see the rain, and we see the work of spreading out the well springs, of spreading Judaism out, has just increased and has had magnified and increased 100 and 1,000 of timefold since it started in Lubavitch. And we see this up into the Frierdiker Rebbe, that he continued spreading out even more and giving out more Chassidus and more talks, Shlach L'Shem Shluchim, and he began the process of sending out Shluchim. The Frierdiker Rebbe was, although they do say that the Rebbe Rashab actually had a few Shluchim that he sent out for operations, the concept of Shlichut, of actually sending out an emissary to a particular place, really started with the Frierdiker Rebbe. Asher Chayev Sham Kama Shanim. Va'avdoi avodasam b'leim v'nigla chatorba penimis hatorba chayin shalach l'shem kisvei chasidus va'agrais v'igos hakodesh shaloi v'shem gam ochana kamininim l'dafois v'nois l'kama v'kama divrei Torah shekvasu v'shov v'tzal l'dafois. That the Frierdiker Rebbe was a prolific writer, and he continued to write and pen more and more teachings of Chassidus and spreading them out. But Klaus Poaloi shall be roar v'zuchach v'dorech hidlav shu soidei chelak b'nem musi v'davka metoich yiras shamayim yo v'chidar kedei dvaras habiror bo'efen penimi mipenei v'dir davar asher teretz es aderech v'notein es hakor v'shavor v'hafech es teichel hakli b'sham medina Tzarfat. And up until we see in this further work that the Rebbe is not mentioning his own name, but he's talking about himself. That's how each one of our Rebbeim kept breaking more klipot, more shells, up until the point of our generation where we see even the shell, the strong shell of France has been broken. Vigilui v'zeh hashleimus nufal la'achar shekav v'kadosh marei admor hagia la'artzot habrit. The chetzik of the Ratach we see when the Frierdiker Rebbe finally made it to America, the real spreading out of Chassidus went even further. It's known that this is the lowest part of the world, meaning spiritually. And he began spreading out even more and opening up more Tamkei Tamim yeshivot. Umina v'shalach shluchim shel manas v'hichiva sham levanos mesudos, and setting out many shluchim to oversee multiple Chabad organizations. The Chafetz Torah v'Yechadus v'Kla v'Torah Chassidus v'Yimchad, to spread out the teachings of Torah, especially the teachings of Chassidus. Ukvi she'orim v'mochash ובפרט בשניים אחרונים, es hatzlacha v'gedoyla u'meruva v'kol po'olas shel hafatzas haTorah yichudas Aminas Chutz of Medina Tzafas. Oid Medina Sa'oif and Herdach Menois Void. Door. Okay. Spreading out further and further. The Ifin Shnois said Liberation said the rain on Nois and Kar the Hamshich Kadusha. Gam Betachtain. That through the power of the leader of the generation from the Frierdiker Rebbe gave us the power to continue spreading out and elevating the furthest corners of the world. The Shiva Tamkhet Tamimim, which began in Lubavitch, now is spread out to the point that it's even in France and in Russia. Places that totally forbid learning or teaching of Torah. Sham, Divrei Torah, B'Torah's Nigel, B'Torah's Chassidus, Klo, Chidush Torah. Shagam Zeh Magish Ech Shafat. Na'asim Makor Le'ini L'Kol Odom Kulo. Shagam Achrim. Makal Me'ini HaTorah Me'Devafisim. Sham Nechol in the Moed Ve'Hav Oisias Mochis V'Chimos V'Kamar Ve'el Hatzlicha Shah Apo'ilo Shah Akshav. Now, as part of what we said above, that the success of our activities now, Hein Hagili B'Flal Shah Koiches Asher Kodesh Mavrach Amidas Reino Shakia Shah Mishneim Shanim Mishneim V'Neisa. That we have the power to do what we're doing now, because of the paths that were previously trodden for us by our Rebbeim, and specifically the Frierdiker Rebbe, the leader of the generation before our Rebbe. Because we know the concept that the leader of the generation is connected to the whole generation. So the power of the leader of the generation affects the power of the generation. Nice, and who has a koch as a koch anashi hadora today the pual as a biwar bakal. And we see that this gave the power and the essence to all the people of the generation to continue in their work of spreading out the well springs, including even this lowly place like America. In such a way that the very essence of the place is transformed, as we said earlier, not just adding on, but literally transforming the place. Ches. I'm sorry, I just got this like rush of exhaustion. Just hit me all at once. I just started feeling a little bit tired, feeling a bit sluggish. Ches. Yesh Lamar and there is to say in this. Rumad Gavishay Tafasi. Again, we're talking about the name of Tzarfat, which is France. Tzarfat hu malashan siruf. Babata ase inim shal siruf ubirav zuchach. Kafishan amar ben nagar lagula. Tzarfat is from the name lashon as siruf, which is literally siruf ibar zuchach, which is to purify and rectify a place. And this is connected to redemption. Isparu bisvavarnu v'tzirafu v'rabim. The refining and rectifying and elevating of the place. This is redemption in such a way to bring about the complete refining of such a place. The Haisib Sarfat, and none of that, France, is also the gematria of 770. Tzadik Reish Pei Tes. Tough, excuse me. Is Tzarfat. It's the gematria of 770. Shlemus Mispar Sheva, which is the completion of the number 7. That each one has 10 within it. So we have 7, 10 in the 7s, and then another 10 in there. Yetzer Kalkach. Kalkach. Okay. 770 Zom Mispar Beit Shel Kavikadesh Mara Semi the ring. And 770, of course, is the name of the house of the leader of the generation. Beit Rabbeinu Sheba Bavel, the house of the leader of her generation. אשר בו חי ועבד עבודתו ב10 השנים אחרים שחיים חיוסר ועומדים. And we see this as it's connected to the last period of the Frierdiker Rebbe's leadership that took place in America. So there is to say, Shazel Meremez al Ha'inyan Hashini. Shibura Beritzoif. Sho Nasa Kama Etzim 770. Abayit Shal Nasi Dereno, but Makoro Shal Hafat. Hatzafat in his Chutzon, his man, Vizara called Kimtepelo. That we see that 770 is the same gematria of France. And again, showing that the elevation of France is connected to the work of our Rebbeinu. He said, in addition to this, Hadgasha Yisera Bachelek Benimusi Menetzelim as Hakatikonois Amakoim Gufa that we lois Galos as has but Makoim Zeb or Efrin Shemurgash Amakoim Nasa Kavua Baka any Torah mitzvahs. That it's been transformed to a place, not only like as we said earlier, that now you're adding on holiness to the place, but the whole place has been transformed to a place of Torah and mitzvahs. There is to say in this, Kadei the Paul Asabiror Hataktan by Yosef Zukukim, the Kacha Etzem, that when you're rectifying the lower parts, the goal is to do it in such a place that you touch the essence of the place, and that's transforming. That's how you know when something's been transformed. It's not an external thing. It's you're touching the essence, right? That's why I always get suspicious when you see these conversions that are Orthodox conversions in order to get married. And then there's a divorce, and the person that converted leaves Judaism. So what does that tell you? I don't know. You do the math. Point is, it's not touching the essence of the person. If they're converting in order to get married, then why are they doing it? They haven't transformed. They're making a change because it's convenient and they want something. But transformation is, I'm not saying every single situation is like that, but when I see these people convert and suppose you do it the right Orthodox way and then they get divorced 5 years later and they completely leave Judaism, how valid is that conversion? Did you really get into the essence and transform your nature? If you did, then if you get divorced, you wouldn't leave Judaism too. But that's beyond my field. Anyway, so that's the idea. We're talking about the actual transformation of the place, where the essence is turned over, not just made a few faces, changes the facade or sprinkled some holiness in there. Yeshler is to say, I already said that mitzar bechinas and giluyim in such a way that it becomes revealed. Shebo yesh chiluk ben elyon l'tachtoim. Yichul nahamshich alukus b'makoyim shehu kli mukasher lezeh. That literally, one second, let me finish this. So when you're not touching the essence of something. This is what we started off the sikha with, this idea. When you're adding light, you're adding holiness. You still have the thing and the holiness, right? A good example in the Torah is kusuv or chukek. Like you're writing or you're engraving. When you write something, you have a piece of paper and you have ink. You could take the ink off the paper, you could erase the pencil, and it's gone. So the essence didn't change. When you engrave in something, you can't ungrave it. You literally pull out from the thing. This is the second level we're talking about. So the first level is you can still see there's a difference between the place and the holiness that's being added. You could see the upper and the lower. This is not the case when the power is affecting the essence of something. Then it's above separation between upper and lower. It's no longer saying spiritual and physical or, it's me and it's God. It's a whole transformation of everything. And this allows the place to be totally transformed, even if in fact the place isn't what we call a vessel for it, because it doesn't matter, because you're touching the essence. L'chamshich sham esa etzem atzmai, because you're touching the very core of the thing. L'chein gam le'edach. Dafka be'emtzoot ha'makoim ha'chi ha'tachton. Mizgav ha'etzem. Asher Paul es biror b'kol. The Rebbe says, specifically, in such a low place, can you reveal the highest thing, right? That's why we see with God. It says, the heavens and heavens cannot contain Hashem. Because the very essence of God can only be revealed in a physical setting. Spirituality needs to cling to physicality for it to be revealed, right? A fire is not a physical thing, it's a spiritual thing. But if you take a fire and you shoot a flame in the air, how long does it last? A brief second. You have to light a match, a piece of paper, a stick, something to hold the fire onto. Okay, test. Al pizeh yuvan gama sheshleimas biur shall call oilam begola ve'elam moshiach v'hartzir nishparer isav yisala Hashem adar lamucha t'livas l'dei b'toy b'ror v'derach lav shall gal surface. The Rebbe says that this whole concept of redemption, of God judging Esau and refining the world, and bringing the world to its ultimate culmination, I should say, is specifically through the work of refining and rectifying the gullus and the lowest part of the world in places like France. Because it's and we could see from this in the lowest place even more, it's bringing about the completion in a higher way. And we see that this concept of France is the same meaning of rectifying or fixing. Because it's so low, it can be elevated. And based on Rashal Sarfat, Merumas Gam, Bigloy Ha'etzim, Netzenas HaKoch, Levora, Eskal, and even Belshlemos. Ado, Ephraim, Mekol, Mekoim, Mamshichias, Bigloy Ha'etzim. That France, the Rebbe said, has had both of those things. One, the first level of rectification, and the second, the level of transformation. Yud. Kidei lahakal oy yoisra hayehudi ra'a hadavar pele asher mevater ligului le'eni basar es habiror ahifucha hanal sha'ala v'tzafat. In order that even more that we should see how wondrous this is revealed to the physical eye, that there's been a rectification, a transformation, even in a place like France. Yeah. Is a who? Yudua ufor sim shalachol medina yesh nigon miuchad, and like it's known that this every single, the Rebbe is now going to give a zinger to them, that every single place has its particular song. Right? America, we have the national anthem. Every single country has their national anthem. She'oisin she'ruim o meniganim. Esifa o ma'ora rishima matam hamedina. That the very song, the niggin, it's not just a niggin, it's not just a song. The essence of the place is rectified, is represented by the song, right? The national anthem. Okay, there's something to it. It's not just words. It's the essence of the place. It's like the flag. It's representative of the Rishima, the influence, if you will, of the place. O kasher tushivim medina naasafim yechadav aroros ashmiim suyunim. All that exact kasher beit koach v'nitzigim shel hamedina nesem lemedina acharos. Kezavazah uvan shenigan hamedina mitzad dugma shel hamedina, and we see again how the particular song is representative of that particular place. If you sang the national anthem in Russia, probably wouldn't get a very big response because there's no connection. לפני כמה שנים התחילה Hasidim She'er as Nigger Sham Medina Sarfat. And the Rebbe said, we've already seen for many years how the Hasidim, of course the Rebbe doesn't take responsibility, have changed the Nigan of Sfat. Nigan HaMafacha. Wasn't the Hasidim, it was the Rebbe, but fine. They transformed it. Im Hamela, Hamilim. Hadaras Vahamon Alachai Elohim. Hatechila Ufarasta Lachai Olamim. Totally transformed it. Took the tune and replaced it with holy words. Zaman Katar V'Yoser La'achar Mekan Hitrachesh Davar Po'elui V'Yoser Medina Sasafat Ha'la Shinoi B'Nigon Medina Hano B'Siva Sadavar Misavirim Ziknei Chasidim Shala'achar She'Nigon Nahafech L'Kedusha. That after this song of France has been transformed, to a holy song, Hargish Zois Chasher, Umazal L'Mayla Shal Medina Sarfat. V'zeh G'yaram L'Mata Es Shine B'Niga B'tzar Hargash Shehaniga Nasa Sharch L'Tachoim HaKadosh Nigan Chasidi Asher Sharim Ve'es Yidvadu Chasidus Klogam Ve'es Yidvadu Babinas Atzarfat Atzmai. So we see that this Nigan, this song that represented the pride of France, the French national anthem, it's like the American national anthem. Imagine that the American national anthem was taken away from America and America stopped using it and now it was replaced by holy words, by Tehillim. It drains the energy. It seems like a simple thing. It's a song, but it's not, because the song is connected to the upper realms. Music is connected to a very high level. And the ministering angels of every specific country channel their energy through that country and through the song that represents the country. I mean, the Rebbe broke the ministering angel of France. He broke all the connection to anything that was connected to France and literally took the national anthem of France and turned it into a Hasidic name that is now sung in Farbrengens, even in France. Unbelievable. רואים בגילוי עשר שינוי הקיצוני שנעשה בדורנו זה לגבי דורש שלנו הזכי. And this we could see even more the advantage of our generation compared to previous generations, like in the times of the Alter Rebbe. The kachu es hanigun hazeh hafacho es v'kedusha, to take a song such as this and transform it to something holy. Hadaras v'hamon alachai Elohim v'shirim oisei v'eis yidvalu chasidus shebehem medavarim divrei his oreis ve'ili haTorah v'mitzvos v'Torah chasidus va'ad kedikach sheyesh ke'ilu shinam ידועים בכל שניגון זה לקח מאשם. והם חושבים שזהו ניגון חסידי ועיקרי. Okay, so we see something so profound and so amazing. This ability that never couldn't be done before. In the previous times of the Alter Rebbe, it was a war to push Hasidus out to the world with great opposition. Now, and this is the point the Rebbe is bringing out, after hundreds of years of 7 Rebbeim, from the Alter Rebbe to our Rebbe, to the point that our Rebbe not only spread Hasidus to the furthest corners of the world, and not only Chabad houses to the furthest corner of the world, we've literally transformed entire countries that were the stronghold of opposing Judaism into places that even their national anthem has been taken from them and sung in Hasidic Farbrengens in the very places that persecuted Jews. to show you the difference, what has happened over the last couple hundred years, how the world has totally transformed into a new reality. It didn't exist before. It couldn't exist before. Yud Aleph. Medua mizchirim zoisachshav. Oh, so now what's the point now? Parpat shechasi yochol l'ta'im shechenicho oisim lekach shekol ininehu neimer chator. Ein lo zman b'kol ininim acharim plogam mofsim ad shehem eino tofisim etzem b'makom al karikach. Rashis tzrich al-yois hachra v'hodal Hashem al hanisim shulas. So the Rebbe says, what's going on now? Wait, hold on. Why now is this? Why are we making this announcement now? And specifically, that we see a chassid has the ability to increase in all matters of learning Torah. And if he tries to, wait. And if he's trying to claim he doesn't have time to increase and to do these things, first of all, we see it's necessary to announce and to proclaim all the wonders and miracles that Hashem has done. Start talking about the concept of miracles. We're in the month of Kislev and Hanukkah is coming up. We're meant to publicize miracles. That's what I just said. In Hanukkah, we're meant to publicize miracles. You see miracles. We're not supposed to just publicize miracles in Hanukkah about the miracle of the war we won of the Maccabees and the war and the miracle of the oil. Parsumi Nisa Bakal Nisim Shakadosh Israel. But it's important to publicize the miracles that God is doing for us now in these times. And mainly is Hachra Hoda'a Nitain Ashavach Hashem Al Nisim Shavasa. To publicize and announce and proclaim the miracle God's doing is for us right now. Yosef al Hayoisam and Inesha Hakriyas Toiva. Hakaras Toiva. In addition to this, it's important to express our thanks and our gratitude as it's connected to the fact that we are literally right now in the process of bringing the full and final redemption. But that was a very famous sikha from, I think it's Mem Ches, if I'm not mistaken, which is 1988, and I don't remember which portion he brought it down in. But he says over there that there's no explanation as to why Mashiach isn't here. And the only thing he could think of is because the Jewish people aren't besimcha. We're not happy. And the Rebbe says, just for the fact alone that we know that we are on the literally threshold of redemption, that Mashiach has already started the process, and that we are moments away from the entire culmination of 5,782 years of history, over 3,000 years of learning Torah and spreading mitzvahs, 7 generations of holy Rebbeim, that we are now in the final seconds right before the full and final redemption, where we're going to have an abundance of wealth, of joy, of happiness, no more war, no more oppression. Everything's going to be revealed at a level we can't even comprehend. The Rebbe says this in and of itself should give us reason to be happy all the time, regardless of whatever else is going in our life. When we just pause and say, hold on a second, I'm in the final stretch. We're in the final end. And so that's what the Rebbe is saying now. We should give thanks and praise to Hashem. We're the generation of redemption. Kafshisha Hagamara Oimeres. And we've already completed all the work. Excuse me. V'yakesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Asher HaMashiach. And we have a request of Hashem already to bring Mashiach. Amra midas hadin lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Azkir shenase Eloi kol nisim ehlelu. V'lo amar shira lefnecha tishar Mashiach. We need to sing the song of redemption. Alpha biza muvan minini par usumi nisa shah nisim HaKadosh Baruch Hu izman. Arizah nega lahavia the Gula makes it to Shem of fall mamish. And through this, we can understand that we must advertise the miracles that Hashem are doing for us in our time and our places, especially connected to the miracle of bringing about the true and complete redemption in actuality. The Rebbe said it's happening right now. We should be singing, enjoying, and dancing in the streets every day. Yud Beis. And for this, we must have a main teaching to sum this all up. And after all these matters and everything completes and everything's done, at the end of the day, we're still not in the final redemption. We'd be in the base of Midas right now, learning from Moshiach himself. So first of all, we must add on an increase in spreading miracles. Miracles regarding ourselves and miracles regarding others. In all places. And the miracles that God is performing for us right now. And from this, for sure, the Rebbe says, is connected also to the knowledge of the threshold of the true and complete redemption. How much more so in the days of Hanukkah? We must increase in our Hasidic fragrance. The Sikha was given on Chof Gimel Kislev after Arda Yotes Kislev. And we should every day have a farbrengen in Hanukkah. The Ravar Sham Divrei Torah and give words of Torah. Niga HaTorah B'Penimis HaTorah. Words of Nigel and word of Chassidus. The Kabbalah Haklata Teva B'Kol Imnim Torah B'Mitzvahs, and take upon ourselves good resolutions to add in matters of Torah and mitzvot. In such a way of increasing and spreading of light. And mainly the word in part of Nisan, mainly through spreading miracles. Nisan, and that's why it says in miracle, Hanisim b'yamim ha'hem b'zman hazeh, that the miracles that God is doing for us in these days at this time, meaning it's not a one-time shot. Yud Gimel, final letter of the day. Hininim hana b'kasher l'tzarfas oimdim hashgacha hisvadu zo. The Rebbe said it's hashgacha brought us that we're in the middle of a Hasidic Fabring right now, with many guests from France. This is the French. This is the French Sikha, because the Rebbe gave this over while there was many guests and shluchim from France. And that's why there's such a big focus on France in it. And the Rebbe said we're sitting for bringing in where? In 770, the home of the Frierdiker Rebbe. And 770 is the same gematria we said already as Sarfat, which is France. But Shehudim Edo Oiskim, Bavinias, Nusudas, Chadoshim, Tzarfat, Dorfez, Safrim, Chadash. And specifically, the Jewish people was increase in building more buildings and more institutions and spreading more holy books into France. Including the entire world. In addition to this, increase in Torah and mitzvot, and through them, increase in fulfilling and learning and spreading more Torah mitzvahs, including and more specifically the mitzvah of tzedakah. That tzedakah brings the redemption and the true and complete redemption to the entire world. And therefore we should all say l'chaim. V'zeh timshach choispa b'chaim l'kol echad mehem l'kol asma al-mesuvim b'torech klal Yisrael. L'haisef shem nezikan gam achim. And especially now we have so many guests here from France. We should all say l'chaim. Yud Dalet, I guess this is the last letter. Here at Son may be God's will. That the rectification and transformation of France, together with the completion of the service of rectifying the whole world, that immediately that all the Jews from the entire world should be gathered, including from France, and every place where they are, and we should go to Har Tzion, and where Hashem will judge the Mount of Esau, and the true and complete redemption through our righteous Redeemer. Paratzta Elech Peretz, he will break through any boundaries or obstacles, and this is Moshiach, and it says Allah Poretz Fnehem, it will break through anything in the way. And the Rebbe says right now, and it says in parentheses, that immediately after the Rebbe finished this, he lifted his glass and said l'chaim, and they all started singing Hadrava Hamon l'chaim, in the French national anthem. Wow, very powerful. So, B'tzrat Hashem, there's nothing else to say. We've got to keep learning, keep spreading these teachings, keep encouraging more people to join. And we should have the full and final redemption right now. Moshiach Now. God bless, and a good Yom Tov, and good Yom Yotes Kislev. And it should be signed and sealed in the book of life, and the ways of Chassidus, and the studying of Chassidus. And it should all result in the true and complete redemption and the full Hizgalus of Melech HaMashiach right now. God bless. Yichia Melech HaMashiach.